Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast. 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and joining me is team reporter Lindsay Polares. It's a short week for the San Francisco 49ers with the Friday Night Lights preseason finale against the Las Vegas Raiders right around the corner, so let's get right to it. The team had a light practice yesterday. Lindsay, what was that like?
Yeah, so, we're coming into a short week for the 49ers, so not totally surprised by the lighter practice. There were no pads. Practice week opened up on Tuesday. There's only going to be one more practice Wednesday and then walkthrough Thursday, then wheels up to Las Vegas for that preseason finale that you mentioned. So it's a lot of quick work this week, and I think it's a little bit of giving the guys who had a significant workload in the second preseason game a couple of days ago some time to rest, getting some of the expected starters out there during Tuesday's practice. And then I think it's very likely we'll see a more full speed, regularly scheduled programming workout later today.
Yeah, and there are several key players currently dealing with injuries. Right now, I'm thinking Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Talanoa Hufanga. How are their recoveries progressing? Is there anyone back in action? Just what's the scene like regarding injuries for the 49ers right now?
Yeah, so there, as we all know, there's been a number of lingering injuries to a number of players over the course of training camp in the preseason. There is a group that appears to be less long term, I guess is probably the best word. So that would include guys like Jordan Mason, who sat out of Sunday's game because of some hip soreness, Elijah Mitchell, who's dealing with a hamstring, Christian McCaffrey with a calf strain, Mitch Wishnowsky with a back injury, Jawan Jennings with an oblique issue, Ricky Pearsall with a shoulder, Isaac Yadam, who rolled his ankle in a walkthrough before the first preseason game. So those guys were actually out on the field, just not part of practice, but they seem to be doing some rehab activities. That's not a necessarily concrete update, but you typically don't see players starting to get back into football activities if they're not trending in the right direction. So I would definitely take that as a positive sign. But as we get more concrete updates from head coach Kyle Shanahan, we'll obviously share them with you on this podcast. I want to talk about safety Talanoa Hufanga. He was cleared last Thursday for more football activity, which is technically the next steps in his recovery process from an ACL injury he suffered in week 11 of last season. That was season ending. So again, he's been cleared for the next steps. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to jump right into practice, and he's actually not going to be in practice this week per the head coach. But it's likely that we will see more of him sooner rather than later. Definitely not this week, so don't expect him to see him in the preseason finale either. And he's not clear to be doing drills against players. So we'll see when the easing of Talanoa Hufanga into practice actually begins. It seems like it's not super far. Ricky Pearsall, the rookie wide receiver, like I mentioned, dealing with a shoulder injury. Head coach Kyle Shanahan also said he's not going to be practicing this week.
Offensive lineman John Feliciano is also undergoing surgery and expected to start the season on the injured reserve list. Lindsay, what are the details regarding that? And also, how does this impact the offensive line depth?
Yeah, so John Feliciano has missed a number of days during preseason and also training camp. We learned yesterday in the Tuesday press conference that he's actually dealing with a knee issue that required surgery. He recently underwent surgery. So it is very likely that he's going to begin the year on the injured reserve list. The hope is, according to head coach Kyle Shanahan, that he'll rejoin the team towards the middle of the year. So again, no concrete timeline there. We'll get more updates as we get closer to the regular season, but as of now, that's how it stands. And like you mentioned, it does affect the depth of the offensive line. We're seeing rookie Dominic Pooney getting significantly more snaps during practice and also playing time during the preseason. And it is likely that he is going to be a significant contributor for the 49ers, just given the amount of injuries that the offensive line has sustained early on in this training camp and preseason time.
Some starters saw some limited snaps against the Saints and might have a similar situation in the upcoming game. Lindsay, which starters do you think might see action this Friday, and what does the team hope to achieve with these reps?
Similarly to what we saw against the Saints, some of the starters got about a quarter of work, a few series. Brock Purdy was in there for 3 drives. It's likely that we're going to see something very similar to that against the Raiders. He wasn't too detailed about which starters would be on the sidelines, similar to the Saints game, because there were a number of veteran starters that didn't suit up at all. But as of now, he said it's likely that some starters will see some snaps come Friday. So more to come there. And I imagine that that plan will come together as they progress through the practice week, which really wraps up today on Wednesday because there's just a walkthrough on Thursday.
Yeah, and with the preseason coming to a close this week, that means evaluations are starting to wrap up, and the roster is going to get tighter pretty soon. After these last 2 games, which players are starting to catch attention? Are there any particular standouts who could make a strong case for a roster spot?
Yeah, I think there's a number of players that have shown some really positive things over the preseason. Obviously, there's one more game to flash everything you've got, and it really is important for the younger players, the undrafted rookies, the free agents that are making that case for the 53-man roster. But I think we've seen a lot of good things from, again, offensive lineman Dominic Pooney, who's really stepped up during the bumps and bruises of training camp and the preseason. And he is seeing a significant workload in the past 2 games. I imagine we will see more of him in the preseason finale. I mean, you could say the same about rookie Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa, who have been just shown that they're very physical players that really fit in with the 49ers playing style. Again, flashing things early that this coaching staff likes to see in the players that they hope to draft and develop. I think again, this was a great time to see what the revamped defensive line is going to look like. So there's a number of players there that have done some really good things. We've seen Trent Taylor and how he is a really big contributor on the special teams unit as well as the passing game. I think in this last Saints matchup, we saw rookie Jacob Cowling really be involved both as a potential punt returner and again also making some nice catches. So there's a lot of players that have shown what they can do, and there is still one more game to really make a case for yourself. And I think that that makes the decisions difficult, but that's a good thing because you have a lot of people that are ready and can contribute immediately on this team.
Definitely. Now, Lindsay, what are you hoping to see in this preseason finale? Is it experimentation with the offense? Do you have your focus locked in on a certain position group? Is it those young players that you're hoping to shine? I'm just curious, what are you looking out for this Friday in the preseason finale?
I think it's a little bit of everything, right? You want to make sure that the offense is getting into a good rhythm, both with your starting quarterback if he plays, and then also with any number of the quarterbacks that will inevitably fall in line behind Brock Purdy. I think it's one final chance for anybody that's hoping to make this roster, which is everybody currently in camp, to make the last case for themselves. And I think that usually materializes into some pretty cool plays on the field. And just generally, these are the last like preseason exhibition reps before the real thing starts first week of September. So I think it's just that last chance for everybody to really gear up for regular season football. I imagine we're going to see some really good things from more than a handful of players come Friday.
All right, faithful. Well, that will do it for today. Subscribe for more 49ers updates and turn on the notifications for any breaking news, Move the Chains episodes. Thanks for tuning in.